Welcome into the Jordy Culotta Show. Wave your hand out there, baby!
Shout out to the show.
She puts the pinky into the nostril. Man, look at that.
Healthy competition, there's nothing like it.
Y'all grow up.
The line's wrapped around the stadium.
Different strengths. I just lost a tooth.
It's going to be fun.
You know, we might have a story.
I love what you're doing.
Ogeron wants to take us fishing this afternoon.
Sharif, you play for the bad boys of the SEC, man. We don't apologize to anybody.
A lot of people are saying you're going to be wearing number 7.
I don't really know. I want to. See, look crazy, Bill.
Good feet on the old man.
Definitely come back.
We'll be right back with the Jordy Culotta Show. Welcome into a Monday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by our friends over at RMB Builders. Shout out to Rhett and the crew over at rmb-builders.com and online. That's where you can find them online or on Instagram at RMB Builders. You can check them out on social media. You can find them there. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. I appreciate you starting your week here with us. If you don't mind, hit that like button, that share button, that comment button, as it was a good weekend for sports, right? LSU is back on the practice field. New Orleans Saints on the preseason football field yesterday with a last-second win in the Dome. Starters looked fantastic. We'll talk all about that with Ross Jackson coming up here at 8 a.m. this morning. We will also get a little bit of a practice report. My first time to see practice over the weekend. Lil Jay and I went out to practice on Saturday morning on a hot Saturday morning for LSU, but we'll talk all about it here on the show. As we said, if you don't mind, like, share, and subscribe. If you have not subscribed, make sure and give us a subscription today before you get out of here. We'll hear from Matt House, LSU defensive coordinator, was speaking with the media on Saturday and did so after practice, and we've got some cuts as we will hear from Coach House about his thoughts and about the midway point here of fall camp. So remember, our phone line brought to you by Southern Regional Medical Center. Real Doctors, Real Solutions, formerly Metropolitan Health Group. Same people, same group. Jason Ramazan, Charlie Harvey, and the crew, BJ and the entire crew over at Southern Regional Medical Center. Let them help you out today if you've got any medical questions. Real Doctors, Real Solutions. Speaking of the phone line, as we said, Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints podcast is going to be here at 8 a.m. What a nice start to the Derek Carr days here in New Orleans, as you get your first look at Carr yesterday, and we'll get into an LSU practice report. We'll get back to the Saints with RJ, with Ross Jackson coming up at 8 a.m. But just real quick here, 26-24 Saints win the game, preseason game number 1, and just real quick, some observations. Got to be the offense, right? I mean, and what Derek Carr and the offense were able to do. The way he started, 6 of 8 for 70 yards, ended with a touchdown to Kirkwood. But what about the way that he spread the ball around? Juwan Johnson, who's going to be a star. I mean, like, this dude's going to be a fantasy winner. I mean, that guy is going to be a fantasy steal. But Juwan Johnson had 2 catches. Alvin Kamara had 2 catches. Michael Thomas had a catch. And then Kirkwood capped it off with the 6-yard touchdown. Man, did they look efficient? Did they look on point? Did they look like kind of the Saints offense of old? I mean, you saw the screen game come back with Kamara on the screen. How good did he look? The offensive line looked like they were in sync. Carr looked like he was very comfortable back there. Man, he's put some weight on, like some good weight. I mean, the the year-to-date picture in comparison of Carr in Vegas last year compared to where he is in New Orleans today, I mean, he has put his time in, man, in the weight room, if nothing else. I mean, you can tell he's committed himself to kind of getting back into early day shape. I mean, he's all chiseled and cut up on his arm. So he's definitely found some type of rejuvenation, it looks like, in his career. And Pete Carmichael and the offense were clicking. And the defense, I mean, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City, the world champs, are in town playing, going for it on fourth down early on in the game. On the first series of the game, Saints able to adjust, and guys like Pete Werner and some of those other Saints newcomers have been around the ball early there, so it was good, man. We will we'll talk to Ross Jackson. I don't want to get carried away in preseason, but just I don't know if I don't know if that could have started any better for the Saints' new staff, new quarterback in Derek Carr, and the start to that was fantastic. It is preseason, so I don't want to get carried away. All right, LSU on Saturday. As we said, very hot, man. It was a hot Saturday morning, and just some observations in being out there. First and foremost is that we've talked about this rookie class a lot, and this freshman class obviously is going to have some guys that are going to step in and play, specifically on defense. When you talk about guys in the secondary like Javion Taviano, Deshaun Womack will be a guy that probably plays on the front line, and then you've got a guy like Wes Weeks who could potentially play at linebacker, who's a true freshman, but really all over the field, man. This true freshman class is extremely impressive. I know that we've talked a little bit about Mac Markway, and Markway very much stands out. I mean, when you just go out there and, you just kind of glancing around the field, he jumps out just from his size, and he moves well. I mean, he moves very impressive for how big he is. And that tight end group, I don't know if it's hard to take it all in. I don't know if Pimpton was out there on Saturday morning, because I was looking for him, and there were so many people out there, and the tight end group is very impressive. Jackson McGowan is another guy that you don't talk about a lot, who I think is going to play.
Pimpton did miss practice Saturday.
Did he? Okay. Because I didn't see him, and I wanted to, just kind of put my eyes on him. But the pass catchers in general, Stewie and I were talking about it this morning. The weapons that LSU has on offense at the skill positions, it's one of the deepest groups I can remember. I mean, like, LSU has had some frontline Odell Jarvis type guys, even, going back to like Dwayne Bowe, Early Doucette, Craig Davis, Justin Vincent was in that group. You had, Keelan Williams was in that group. I mean, you had weapons. I mean, I'm not saying that this is something new for LSU, but when you just start going down the list and looking at the guys that they have access to, I think Malik Neighbors potentially could be a Biletnikoff finalist. Just, kind of like a bold early season statement. You go out there and watch him practice. First off, I had my son with me. We just kind of got up on a Saturday morning and, started the day and went and ate some breakfast, and we're kind of running some errands and moving around. And he and I went out to camp. And, one thing that I have been talking to him about is, like, you got to take practice serious, man. Like, you got to take every rep serious. I mean, I know that it's tough to get that right now, but I mean, you really got to make the most of practice. And I've been sending him like these Twitter clips of like Kobe Bryant talking about practice and Michael Jordan talking about practice, and some of the greatest to ever play talking about how they took practice. You go watch Malik Neighbors practice. That dude practices as if it is his last rep every single opportunity he gets. And, I mean, that is so contagious on a team where your best player or one of your best players is doing that. It brings the best out of the other side. I mean, Ashton Stamps, who is a true freshman cornerback who's going to play. Wait until you hear Matt House talk about Stamps. I mean, he gets giddy when he's talking about the freshman. I had to look down at the roster 2-3 times on Saturday to just double check who is 26. Because he is not built like a freshman. He doesn't move like a freshman. I'm telling you, he's playing against Florida State. And there was a couple of reps of, him going up against Neighbors in some one-on-ones where, I mean, Neighbors is giving Stamps everything he's got, man. And I really believe that Neighbors is one of the top 5 wide receivers in college football right now, today. And potentially at the end of the season could be the best. And what that does for the young player, a young player that has expectation to play, and then after Malik Neighbors, bust him up a little bit, helps him up, pats him on the head, kind of tells him, gives him a little bit of a pointer maybe of what he did or maybe how he can prevent what he did, and just how much that makes the overall team better. It doesn't necessarily go into the stats. You may not even catch it if you're watching a video of practice. But what it does for your best player to be that dialed in as a practice player just makes your overall team that much competitive, that much more competitive. I mean, I thought Malik Neighbors, just from a pure will and what he was putting out, led me to believe LSU is a really good team. When you've got your best player, one of your best players, giving it like that on a Saturday morning where it's 105, it's miserably hot. It's easy to go through a rep where, you may go 75, 80%. Not number 8, man. I mean, he gives it everything he's got in what I saw on Saturday every time he got the opportunity. And I just thought, man, what does that do? First off, the freshman, we go back to the weapons, the amount of options that LSU has there. I didn't see a scenario on how the freshman wide receiver could crack the lineup just because there's so much depth at wide receiver. But these freshmen are so good that I'm not saying that they catch, 6-7 balls a game, but I do think that they get 6-7 snaps a game. Where you look at Shelton Sampson, you look at Kyle Parker, you look at Jaylen Brown. I mean, and I don't even mean to say it like this, but Kai Prean, I mean, he made a play on Zy Alexander Saturday on a red zone work where, I mean, he ran a crisp comeback route to the pylon. Nussmeier is rolling to his left, throws just a timing route, expecting Preon to be there. Preon comes out of the cut, tracks the ball, makes the catch with his hands, with Alexander on his back, grips it in, tucks it. It was damn. That's a nice play for a true freshman to make against a veteran DB who's got expectation to play. Be a starter early on. I just was very impressed with the entire rookie class and the amount of options and weapons that LSU has offensively. And like I said, I didn't even see Pimpton. Pimpton wasn't even out there. And he was one of the guys I couldn't wait to see from just a weapon standpoint. But, you go down the list of Aaron Anderson, Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey, and then you throw in these true freshman wide receiver, and then you get to the tight ends. I haven't talked about Mason Taylor yet. Mason Taylor has put on some really impressive weight. He looks much more like a college tight end than a true freshman out there. the amount of weapons on offense, and then you get to the running backs. I mean, like, you haven't even talked about the running backs yet. Emory looks fantastic. I mean, like, I know that's not the problem. I'm not biting the bait again. I've always said that, but I mean, like, he just looks fantastic.
It's not football with John. It's never been football with John. But you talk about Malik Neighbors, and, I mean, LSU put out this clip Saturday after practice, and you talk about going hard in practice.
Is that Malik? I'm telling you, dude.
That's on You Got Mossed on Monday.
It just when you have that type of buy-in from your best players, it's tough. It's tough for a team as talented as LSU to be out of games. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to win the national championship, but it's just when you're getting that buy-in from your best every single day, that's so contagious. I mean, it's so hard for not everyone to buy in. You know what I mean? Because you become an outcast so quickly. I mean, if that guy's in, how are we not in? Right? I mean, it's a very contagious drug in sports when you have that type of buy-in. And Chili is right. I didn't even mention Chris Hilton.
No.
And Chris Hilton is running by people like they're standing still. I mean, like, he put his head down and made his mind up he was going to sprint past somebody, caught 2 bombs, just like 40, 45-yard touchdowns, where it was just, he made it look so easy. And if Chris Hilton, I mean, like, I am so sorry that I did not mention Hilton, but I mean, you see so much on Saturday. I'm just trying to kind of like regurgitate it back to you. And Hilton was one of the absolute bright spots of just the weapons and another option at wide receiver that you look at and you say, man, I mean, if Chris Hilton can stay healthy, and that's it, because another one, when it comes to football, if he's healthy, he's tough to keep off the field. And you've got Malik Neighbors, and you've got Brian Thomas, and you've got Aaron Anderson, and you've got Kyron Lacey, and then you sprinkle in Shelton Sampson, Kyle Parker, Jalen Brown, Kai Prion. I mean, like, it's as deep of a weapon unit that LSU has had in a while, it feels like. And I mean, I'm include 19. I mean, they were loaded, but I mean, you know, it's just the depth. The amount of players, the amount of guys that they really can use, look at, and put in there it's going to be very tough on defenses. I mean, it's going to be stressing on defenses week in, week out to just where is it coming from? Who am I focused on? And the most impressive part about it is that they're all kind of different in skill sets. Where you've got size, you've got speed, you've got, you know, guys that can play possession type wide receiver. You got guys that can beat one-on-ones. You got guys that can beat the zone. You got guys that can just play in all facets of the offense. So the weapons, the depth at the skill spots on offense is embarrassing for LSU. It's going to be fun to watch how they use everyone because they're just loaded at those spots. They're loaded at those spots. Another guy that I wanted to see that was not out there was Mason Lunsford. The offensive lineman was not out there. And so I wanted to see kind of like what that group looked like. So that put Frazier back in with the starting 5, and you had Emory Jones at the right tackle, Frazier there. You had Charles Turner at the center spot, Garrett Dellinger at right tackle, and then you had, of course, Will Campbell at defensive end. Mason Smith did get dinged up a little bit. He was on the ground for a while. It looked like his right knee. I don't want to speculate. You know what I mean? He didn't go inside. He stayed out there. At this point, I'd be tempted to pull the plug on him in practice, especially from team stuff. You know, I mean, like, you don't want to stress it, push it. Right? I mean, he has been well ahead of schedule on this rehabilitation of the knee. I mean, way ahead of way past the timeline that I thought he'd be at. I mean, it hadn't even been a year yet. I mean, guy's sprinting, been sprinting. Like, I mean, he's been running. He's been moving. I mean, he has really, I mean, like, you know, I mean, if I'm an NFL scout general man, like, it's like, whoa, okay. I mean, like, he's locked in. I mean, like, the guy, he got himself right. You know, I mean, it's no doubt about whether or not he can get himself back. Now that he's back, it's like, all right, let's chill. You know what I mean? Like, easy. I mean, you'd rather him be able to push 35, 40 snaps in the opener than, you know, have him limping throughout the last couple of weeks of training camp. But he is a just massive human being. And he looks so good. Before he went down, he was moving around. He was running. He was, you know, you can see it. I mean, he is so motivated. He's another one. He's another one that gets every single ounce of energy out of every single rep. One of your best players who just gives you every single ounce of what he has every time he goes at it in practice, which, you know, just leaks into guys. I thought Quincy Wiggins was very impressive on Saturday. I mean, he had some one-on-ones versus Garrett Dellinger where, I mean, he got past Dellinger. That group is so good. I just hope that Quincy, my just in watching that group play, because Savion Jones it's time. I mean, he is going to bust out. And I know that people bust my balls on what I've been saying about Savion Jones for 4 years, but I mean, if you bought this stock 4 years ago, you're feeling right now. I mean, if he can stay healthy and he can stay good and he can stay on the field, he is someone that it just pops. I mean, you go out there, you're like, my goodness, who is 35? I mean, he's just moving, but you've got him, you've got Deshaun Womack, you've got Jackson Howard, you've got Quincy Wiggins. I mean, you've got Paris Sneed is a guy that's going to play for sure. You know, I mean, they're just deep there. I thought, you know, defensive line, it was good to see guys like Jordan Jefferson. It was the first time I had gotten to see him. Jarrett Lee was out there. Again, a transfer from Florida, a guy who's you know, a big body, who will have a role for sure. But the frontline guys and Wingo and Smith and I mean, they're stout, man. They're stouts. I mean, they're stout. You know, inside. I mean, you got to have a rotation behind them. But that Wingo he is so quick off the snap, man. I mean, he's got that low center of gravity, obviously, but I mean, just his get off. I mean, his on the snap of the ball, if you don't get your hands on him, he is such a problem. And then you got Mason Smith right next to him, who it just, you know, he's just such an issue. I mean, I don't know how you don't double team him. He's just so big. Really, I mean, it's just he's such a massive, impressive, skilled guy. I mean, he's such a good athlete for how big he is. And then you got Wingo, who's so quick next to him. They're going to be hell. I mean, they are going to be hell. And if you can get some guys behind him that can keep them fresh for 4 quarters, where you can spell them on drives and rotations where, you know, they're not playing 50, 60 snaps, and keep them in there where, you know, I mean, it's meaningful drives, and keep them on the field where, you know, I mean, they're making their plays. They're just a tough combo interior that you have to, I mean, there's just, you better have some good athletic interior guys to keep up with them, because they're big, strong, and fast. So I thought that the offensive and defensive line was good competition. Like I said, Mason Lunsford wasn't out there for LSU, and over the last couple of days and weeks, you've heard his name a lot of somebody who was making a push. So didn't get to see him from that standpoint, but you know, just like I said, some of the things that jumped out. And then, you know, I mean, from the quarterback standpoint, you know, I mean, it's just you see how much Jaden Daniels has progressed from year 1 to year 2. And it's everything that we said about listening to Brian Kelly speak to the press, where he seems much more relaxed. He seems much more at ease of what the program is going to be built around. His principles, his teachings, what is expected, his expectation, his standards have been locked in. It doesn't have to be explained. The leaders in the group know it. They've kind of trickled it down in the locker room, so Kelly doesn't have to go through the implementation process of what he was going through last year at this time, where it really kind of set back the installation and development of the team. Now, you can see in the way that he talks and the way that he carries himself. I mean, he was in form on Saturday morning. He was getting after it, coaching his guys up. It was good to see him in that element. Same thing we said about Mike Denbrock last week when we saw him and heard from him for the first time. Much more at ease, right? You don't have to go through teaching guys terminology, teaching guys formations, teaching guys, the basic standards and fundamentals of what you're doing every single day. Now all of that is understood. You can kind of your development, your teaching is much more further along at this point than than it was last year. Same thing I would say about Jaden Daniels and even Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, they seem so much more comfortable in what they are doing, what they are seeing, what they're saying. We mentioned terminology. They are at ease in that. They're so much more comfortable in that. And then that translates in the way that they play. Daniels moves with much more less anxiety. You can just tell. He has a much more firmer grasp of what is being asked of him to do. And there has definitely been an emphasis from the coaching staff to him that he got the message to push the ball down the field, to start to take chances, start to move and push the ball down the field. And that is something that I think has hit home with Daniels, because he has gotten the message. And I think LSU is going to take advantage of these weapons like we talked about. It's clear that somebody has gotten to Daniels and said, look, get the ball out of your hand and put it in these guys' hands. They make plays. They change the scoreboard. And I think that's you will see that very early on, because that's something that you can see in practice, and it's very obvious that they're much more comfortable. It's much more comfortable. Think about what you do. How much more comfortable were you in the sixth month rather than the third month of your new job? How much more comfortable were you in your sixth month rather than the third month of your relationship? Whatever it is, right? Now being a year in for people like Jaden Daniels, Mike Denbrock, Brian Kelly, it's much more at ease. Remember our friends over at Hughes Mechanical, the AC right now. Can it keep up? Can your AC keep up? If it cannot, you want to get the air-conditioned trusted service reps from Hughes Mechanical out to see you today. 225-658-2147. 225-658-2147 is the phone number. They're online at hughesmechanical.net. hughesmechanical.net. Get in touch with Travis and his crew, the most trusted and experienced professionals here in South Louisiana. They service everywhere, all the way up to the North Shore, from Zachary, all throughout South Louisiana. You can trust Hughes Mechanical Contractors. That's for residential HVAC and AC, both installation and repair right now. The ACs are having a tough time keeping up. If that's the case for you, get in touch with Hughes Mechanical Contractors at 225-658-2147. 225-658-2147 is the phone number. Over at Hughes Mechanical, they are a trusted Daikin air-conditioned company. Get in touch with Travis Hughes today at 225-658-2147. Enormous day for Dylan Cruz yesterday. At some point, he's not going to be in single A for long here. As Cruz yesterday, 2 bombs, 5 for 5, 6 ribbies, a walk. He knocked one off the scoreboard yesterday in Oppo, opposite field, off the scoreboard. The pitcher's reaction is fantastic. This guy looks like he's been in single A for about a decade. And he just serves one up to the number 1 pick as Dylan just just snap turns on this thing, man, and knocks it off the scoreboard within a blink of an eye as he is just ripping through the single A. I saw that who was it that put out last week the top 5 minor league prospects in both Skeens and Cruz?
I think it might have been just like
MLB. Yeah, no, I think it was MLB put out their top 5 minor league prospects, and both Cruz and Skeens in the top 5. As Skeens made his minor league debut, which they started him off in single A. That makes zero sense to me. Like, why you would waste a pitch on this guy in single A doesn't make a lot of sense. I know that there's a ramp-up method here, but, I mean, you could almost roll this guy out in triple A. I've never done that in my life. I've never made one of those decisions. It just seems like outside looking in that it's a very much waste of time and waste of energy on $1 million arm to go throw him against guys like me and Stewie. I mean, you know what he's going to do. I mean, he's embarrassing these people, for God's sakes. He's doing what, I mean, him and Cruz are just like, I mean, they're taking the will out of these people to even play baseball anymore. But what a day for Cruz. What a day for the Saints yesterday. We're going to talk about it with Ross Jackson coming up here in about 30 minutes. So if you have Saints questions, get them in. But we talked a little bit about it, at the start of the show. Love to see the starters playing. Love to see the offensive line, and obviously the new quarterback and David Carr really starting to catch on and click. As we said, he was 6 for 8 for 70 yards in the way that he started the game. In that start, he spread the ball around. Alvin Kamara had a couple of catches. Jawan Johnson had a couple of catches. Mike Thomas had a catch. He hit Kirkwood for the touchdown inside the red zone. Offense looked very efficient in just getting back to work, man. Pete Carmichael looks very comfortable in calling plays. Like we said early on, it's been a while since we've seen the screen game with the Saints. Saints were routinely one of the best, if not the best, screen team in the league for a long time under Sean Payton. And that was something that they did very well. I mean, it was always kind of a security blanket for the Saints offense that you could fall back on, that you could get positive yardage in the screen game. And it was good to see that yesterday with Kamara, with the crew, with Pete Carmichael, with everyone who looked very comfortable in calling plays. Saints got the win in dramatic fashion yesterday as they kicked a game-winning field goal to secure the victory yesterday versus Kansas City. They had some things that they need to clean up. We'll talk about that with Ross Jackson, obviously. They had a great start. They were up 17-7 at half and ended up really struggling in the second half to do anything. But they got the win, 26-24. They were able to hang on and get a last-second victory on a game-winning field goal. Saints start off preseason pretty well. You don't put a lot into the preseason outcomes, but it was good to see what you saw from the starting unit against the world champs. So we will talk to Ross Jackson about that coming up here at 8 a.m. this morning. So stick around there if you have any Saints needs, if you want to hear about what's going on with Saints, if you have any Saints questions, you can jump in with us. Some other big recruiting news over the weekend. This was a little surprising, right? Decorian Moore was the 5-star wide receiver out of Duncanville. This is a high school that LSU has been hanging around the last couple of years here, doing a lot of recruitment. Obviously, last week they picked up Caden Durham, the 4-star running back out of Duncanville, who pledged to LSU. They were in on Colin Simmons, who's the number 1 player in Texas out of Duncanville. It came down to LSU, Texas, as Simmons chose the LSU hat. And then after that, people were really eyeballing Decorian Moore, who was the 5-star wide receiver out of Duncanville, who just shut down the process over the weekend and pledged to LSU, which talking to some recruiting experts in the field, a lot of guys that we trust, this was a little bit of a surprise. Now, He's just a sophomore, right? Or is he entering his junior year right now?
Yeah, he's going to be a junior.
So he's going to be a junior. So he's a rising junior. He's coming up to his junior year. But was one of the top underclassmen in the state of Texas. He's a 5-star wide receiver. He told the Bengal Tiger staff, he told Shea and the crew, I believe it was with Billy, that he said he just liked the vibes and the energy from the coaches. It's a cool place to play ball and just to live around. They have always been at the top for me. It's wide receiver U. You're wrong if you don't have LSU as the top school as a wideout. As we said, Moore is ranked as a 5-star. He's the number 2 wide receiver prospect in the On3 industry rankings for the class of 2025. So this gives LSU a couple of Texas commits. They picked up Jalen Watkins, Jelani Watkins,
Caden Durham, and DeCorian Moore.
I mean, that's the 2 top wide receivers in the state, right? I mean, Jelani Watkins. I mean, DeCorian Moore, I know, is a 5-star, but I mean, if they're not the 2 top ones, they're within the 2. I mean, they're within the top 5, right, of the state. So LSU doing some work here, not only on Duncanville's campus, which is a great place to have some locked-in relationships, but within the state of Texas where, look, obviously Texas, the University of Texas, has changed their complete mindset on the way that they recruit, right? I mean, like they are locked in. You know what Texas A&M is doing, and obviously TCU played the national championship last year. So I mean, this is a state that the schools within the area are succeeding right now, and so for LSU to stay relevant and stay in the area and stay being able to pluck away guys like DeCorian Moore and Jelani Watkins. Very positive sign, and Caden Durham, for that matter as well. Very positive sign for what LSU has going on right now. Remember our friends over at Katie's Restaurant. Katie's located down on Iberville Street. Speaking of the Saints, yesterday would have been a great opportunity for you to get into to Katie's to witness the new and take advantage of the new hours. Remember, we're telling you on Sundays 10 to 6, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. or when the doors are opening and when the doors are closing, playing host to the pre- and post-game crowd for Saints games on Sundays. If you want to have a place to go watch the game, they've added 5 new televisions for you not to miss a play over at Katie's. They're located on Iberville Street. Same great service, same great people, same great food, same awesome leadership with our friend Scott Craig and the crew over there. So go see them. They're located online, very easy to find them online at katiesinmidcity.com. They've been around since 1984, so they got the experience. They've been doing it, man, consistent. 1984 is when they're started, and they are located on Iberville Street right there in Mid-City. They got a sister restaurant in Francesca's, which is a great little deli over in Lakeview that you can check out. You get all the information online at katiesinmidcity.com. katiesinmidcity.com. We'll be back. More of the Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by R&B Builders. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz.
We're all from different places and backgrounds. We've each experienced our own versions of life, but in the end, we're all on the same team. I'm part of that team, along with these players in purple and gold.
Kayshawn Buddha, Malik Neighbors, Miles Frazier,
Kyron Lacy,
Greg Brooks.
Whether on the field or in the courtroom, your team matters.
So join our team.
make a difference.
Bet. Let's get it done.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Thanks. And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
Hey Tiger fans, when you're traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, make sure to visit Tom and Wright Granning at Go Mart and On The Go Deli, where you can fill up your tank and your belly. Go Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need on your trip. Located at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left. Also stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff, where the Po' Boys are so good you'll swear you're in Cajun country.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Is it time to wash your house or business? Call the pros at Hydro Wash today. Get them out with their low-pressure, soft-washing cleaning approach. From commercial buildings, rooftops, and residentials, Hydro Wash is ready to get your place shining. Find them on Facebook or call Curtis at 225-933-7068. Take it from me, Hydro Wash came by and made my house look like new. What was best was the professionalism. They picked up everything, made the clean, and then put everything back to where it belonged. Get in touch with Curtis today. Call him at 225-933-7068 or find Hydro Wash on Facebook.
All right, buddy. Make it a good shot.
Oh, yeah.
Sticking the roof in.
For a hole in your roof, or a whole new roof, go roof. Roof, roof, go roof.
Hey, Greg, roof up?
Roofs up. Roofs up. Roofs up.
Roofs up?
Roofs up.
Roofs up!
Beautiful roof every single time. True. True.
All right, welcome back here. Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by our friends over at RMB Builders. Remember our friends over at RMB. Get in touch with them at rmb-builders.com. We're going to get in a little early with Ross Jackson this morning. I know we said 8 a.m., but Ross said he had gotten a link, and he's standing by. And I said, look, man, we got to get you moving on your day. I hate to keep people holding up, as we'll talk to Ross here in a couple of minutes. How about the Saints yesterday, man? Saints looked really good, especially the starters. And we'll focus in on all of it with Ross coming up here. So if you've got a question, if you got something specific about New Orleans yesterday, just let us know. 26-24 Saints winners, as you get your first look at Derek Carr and the Saints offense. What a start for the Saints offensively. It is preseason, so we don't want to kind of talk a little bit, lose perspective. But it was the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was your first time seeing Derek Carr in the offense in action. And I was up early this morning and listening to Locked On Saints podcast. Great coverage from Ross and the crew as usual. Make sure that you are following Ross and the Locked On Saints podcast team for this Saints season and training camp for everything that's coming out, including last night's first exhibition game in which Ross gives real time right after the game. Does a great YouTube link that you can see and does some video with it. So follow him at Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola to keep up with all of it. RJ, good morning. How are you, man?
Brother, doing well. I'm glad that you and I are both aligned in sticking with Twitter, right?
Yes.
Like it's what it is.
Absolutely.
It's what it is.
Look, we grew up on Twitter. His mama calls him Twitter. I'm gonna call him Twitter.
That's exactly right.
His mama calls him Derek Carr. And
Mama calls him Derek Carr, man.
He looked good, man. I said, look, man, the first thing that jumped out to me in seeing him in a uniform is he is somebody. Las Vegas telling him they didn't want him back rejuvenated him. I mean, like, he's caught a second wind here. I mean, you can see he's all cut up. I mean, he's been in the weight room. The way he started the game, I thought, was spreading the ball around. It was as good of a start as he could have had, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were at the point at the end of the game during the press conference where we were asking questions like, so what could you have done better? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't want to, overblow everything because, as you were just mentioning, like, it is a preseason game. It's one series. And remember, Jameis Winston, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, those guys looked great for their one drive in the preseason last year. But unfortunately, most of those guys didn't get the opportunity to finish the season. So we know that anything can happen and anything can change. So we do have to keep things in perspective. But like, there's a lot of things to be happy about with this New Orleans Saints first drive and the way that Derek Carr handled his first action in a New Orleans Saints uniform. You saw multiple plays that started off with some motion over on the offensive side. Didn't see that a lot last year. We saw the screen pass, Alvin Kamara, swing pass to get him out in space. They did a split zone release with Chris Olave, the first play of the game, trying to leak him out over to that right sideline and get him in space as well. We saw the ball spread around, like you mentioned. Chris Olave was targeted. You saw passes to Michael Thomas, to Juwan Johnson, to Keith Kirkwood, to Alvin Kamara. I mean, they moved the ball around and did all the things that you're accustomed to seeing a New Orleans Saints offense do. So now the New Orleans Saints offense of the past is kind of what they're trying to get back to here in Louisiana. And it seems that Derek Carr was the right guy for that choice.
Early on observations of offense and just some of the weapons. Most positive thing I saw was a screen pass to Alvin Kamara that turned into really a big gain. I'd love to see them incorporating that back into, at least some of their identity. What did you see of that 8-play or that 8 pass attempt drive that Carr led the Saints on to start?
Yeah, I really liked what we saw for that screen pass as well. We saw Alvin Kamara, my numbers tell me 9 times targeted on a screen pass last year, which is kind of unacceptable. We're used to seeing him there around 20, 25 times or more. So to be able to see one in a preseason game usually tells you that some good stuff is on the way for a regular season matchup. You know what I mean? And we've seen them work the screen game all throughout training camp, all throughout practices, whether it's with Alvin Kamara or Kendrick Miller or Jamal Williams. They've been working those screen passes out of the backfield. So it was great to see that translate to that opening preseason drive. I think the other thing that I really enjoyed seeing was a little bit of the misdirection that we saw. There was a play in particular, it was just a run. Like if you just look at it on surface value, it was just a run to Jamal Williams right up the middle. But before the ball was handed off to Jamal Williams coming out of that I formation, it was a play fake to Adam Prentice. And then on the backside, you had the end around action by Chris Olave. So you saw a lot of eye candy, a lot of motion. Those types of things end up having an impact on opposing defenses and set up tendencies that you can break later. That's something we didn't see a ton of for New Orleans last year, but seeing it here early in the first drive of the preseason generally is a pretty good it gives you a pretty good expectation of what you might see during the regular season.
Speaking of expectation, Ross, what's your expectation for Juwan Johnson?
Everything. No, I'm just kidding. No, but really, like, this dude, he's been outstanding, right? I mean, he might be one of the better yards after catch threats on the team too, just in terms of how, the types of matchups that he's going to see, who he's often going to be catching the passes around. If he catches a pass near a linebacker, I mean, he's the quintessential example of the old tight end stereotype, right? too big for the defensive back, too fast for the linebackers. Like, that's exactly who Juwan Johnson is. And he and Derek Carr have linked up quite a bit over the course of the offseason. And I think that the addition of Clancy Barone, the tight end coach, who's also worked with guys like Antonio Gates and Algie Crumpler and Kyle Rudolph and Julius Thomas and Jimmy Graham for a little while too, I believe over in Chicago. That's a pretty good resume for a tight ends coach. And now you get to add that and Jimmy Graham himself to, Juwan Johnson's kind of mentorship group. I think that the sky's the limit for Juwan. I don't know that he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiving tight end in this offense, but as a guy that, caught for over, what was it, five? I think he totaled out right at like 508, maybe 504 yards. Maybe I'm just thinking about the area code too much. But him getting there last year on what was really a second half burst gives you a pretty good expectation or understanding of what the expectations are for him here in 2023 with a full season working with a quarterback that trusts him.
Every time I bring you on here, we either talk about Olave or Mike Thomas, and I'd like to get some thoughts on him before I get you out of here. But, I mean, guys like Keith Kirkwood and guys like we didn't see on Saturday, Rashid Shaheed, who we talk a ton about, and even Traquan Smith, who didn't dress. Who are some of the pass catchers that you're looking at after Olave and after Thomas that have to step up on this team that need to fill that third and fourth pass catching option?
Yeah, the three guys that I really was looking forward to watching all had pretty good standout performances in their own ways. One of them a little bit different than the other two, but the top two being Keith Kirkwood as well as A.T. Perry. Look, the Saints invested in A.T. Perry, not just a 6th-round selection, but they also traded away Adam Troutman to move up and get him. Yes, I know Adam Troutman asked for his trade, but still, if you move a player to draft a player, you kind of have an expectation that player is gonna be somebody for you. And what we've seen from A.T. Perry over the course of camp has been a little inconsistent, right? Like, there were the focus drops and things like that. There were the concerns at Wake Forest. But one of the things that I kept saying about A.T. Perry is wait for him to get under the lights. Let's see what happens when it's opening night, the crowd is there, the audience is there, all that other stuff. What happens? And he had 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown, most impressively on 6 targets. So 100% completion percentage there, including a couple of contested catches, not the least of which being, of course, the touchdown that he dove into the end zone for. So you love seeing that from A.T. Perry. I thought he did some really, really good work for himself last night. Keith Kirkwood as well. I asked Derek Carr about Keith Kirkwood because we're always asking him about Chris Olave, Michael Thomas as well, just like we were just talking about. And one of the things that he mentioned was that he's got kind of a 6:30 standing session with any of the pass catchers. But he always says that, hey, I'll be there at 6 a.m. if anybody wants to get a little extra work in. And Keith Kirkwood is there every single day at 6 a.m. or every single time that the opportunity is there, starting at 6 a.m. He doesn't wait until 6:30. And he's there working with Derek Carr afterwards, getting more routes in, getting more catches in, getting more passes in, all these other things. And so I think that type of chemistry with Derek Carr certainly goes a long way. The third guy that I was watching was Lynn Bowden. He didn't get too many opportunities in the passing game, but showed you what he could do as a special teams contributor.
Defensively, Ross, as impressive as the starting unit was on offense, I thought that defensively starting, they started the game really well. I thought the 4th down stop obviously was a huge push for them to get going. What did you see from the starting unit out there on the other side of the ball?
Yeah, I'm just really excited to see Pete Werner back in action, fully healthy again. Remember, he had a phenomenal start to the season last year until that injury hit. I think he was leading the NFL in tackles, if I remember correctly, up until that point. We saw him come up with 2 big either stops, if you think about that 4th down that you mentioned. But he also had a run play that he got in on early that was then swallowed up and finished off by a couple of other guys that were there. And so I think that that's the big thing that's sort of a huge difference for this defense from what we saw in this opening preseason game versus some of the things that they struggled with early in the season last year was getting a bunch of hats to the ball, right? We saw a lot of one-on-one situations last year, and defenses never want that. They never like that. And so it was great to see just a lot of hats get to the ball, multiple players getting there to help out and assist with the tackles, all of that. So I think that you were encouraged by that. I didn't see the defensive line get moved off of the line of scrimmage very often throughout the first couple of drives that we saw the starting defensive line. I think that's a big thing. We saw the line of scrimmage reset 1-2 yards pretty often last year, especially in the run game. We saw them do that well, and we saw them key and diagnose really well, especially over in the front 7. getting in and being able to get a stop on the screen pass in that first drive by the Kansas City Chiefs. Later on, we saw Zach Bond with a rush up the middle. I think that's what he should be doing. That was a little bit of like a Caden Ellis deployment, maybe something they learned about what made Caden Ellis so good last year, and now they've given to Zach Bond. Those are things that I think you want to see, and I think we got to see some glimpses of that, as well as just opportunistic defense. Look, if the offense makes a mistake, you got to be able to take advantage of it. And we saw the defense do that on a couple of occasions. Ugo Amadi with the interception off of the Alontae Taylor pass breakup. And we also saw, of course, later on the Kyle Phillips interception, which you just love seeing a big man get a takeaway like that.
Absolutely. More defensively, opposite Marshawn Lattimore, I've been reading and listening to your work. Lattimore sounds like he's having a fantastic camp, which is awesome. Yeah. Opposite him, who do we like?
Yeah, as of right now, I still have Paulson and Debo in the lead, but I think Alontae Taylor showed you some good things on the outside yesterday. I know they've been trying to cross-train him into the slot and things like that, and that's a big thing that you have to be able to do in the NFL. Dennis Allen kind of talked about it yesterday, like, if I've got a bunch of outside guys, somebody's got to play inside. And so, good for Alontae of taking on that task and learning it. You saw last night that he's still learning that slot position. He lost downfield on the slot. His first snap in the slot, second or third snap in the slot was the miscommunication between him and Roby for the touchdown that was surrendered. So, look, that's just going to get better with reps and things like that. But it's day and night, the difference between Alontae Taylor on the outside and on the inside. You get him back on the outside where he's comfortable, where he's played a lot more snaps, where he has a lot more experience, and he plays extremely well, which shouldn't be much of a surprise. But him getting that pass breakup, which led to the takeaway by Ugo Amadi, those are the things that are going to move the needle. You want to see these guys go out there and make plays. Alontae Taylor's out there making plays. So I think that he helped close the gap a little bit between he and Paulson and Debo. I still give the edge to Paulson and Debo. And, ideally you want to have the three of those guys, including Marshawn Lattimore, out on the field at the same time. I just think you're a little bit of a ways away from that. I think Bradley Roby and Ugo Amadi are your two slot guys right now, and I think you're comfortable with that. You probably feel good about that, while Alontae Taylor continues to learn. But I'll give the edge to Paulson and Debo right now, but I think Alontae did some good stuff for himself on the outside yesterday.
How's Peyton Turner's camp been up to this point? I saw him running with the second team on Saturday, or yesterday, I'm sorry.
Yeah, look, the big difference between this year's camp and last year's camp is that last year's camp I would have described as flashing, and in fact, he described as flashing too. He was stacking moments more than he was stacking days. He would kind of have a moment in day 1, day 5, day 10, that kind of thing. But this year, it's been more like he's stacking days. We've seen him consistently. John Hendricks and I over at St. Zeus Network, we're writing 98 in our notebooks almost every day. Yeah. And so it's been great to see that consistency because he's in a competition right now, him and Carl Granderson, to see who's going to get the start opposite Cam Jordan. I think right now the lead still goes to Carl Granderson, but it's been great to see what Peyton Turner has been able to turn around and how he's been able to turn a corner, so far as it looks at least, over the course of this offseason. Didn't really have any big splash plays yesterday, but still did some really good things yesterday in terms of generating pressure, clogging up some gaps. I think we saw him either rotate or stunt into the middle or maybe even rush from the middle yesterday. I need to go back and watch the film on it. But, he did mention that they've been using a lot more NASCAR packages. So that's just going to give them more opportunities in passing situations to have 3 defensive ends out there. And I think that means Peyton Turner, one way or another, is getting a lot of snaps here in 2023, and he deserves them.
Joint practices coming up here over the next couple of weeks with both the Los Angeles Chargers and the Houston Texans. What's the big push there? What's the objective when they get into these joint practices?
Competition. It's all about competition in these joint practices without having to do anything in a preseason game that maybe is a little bit less controlled. There's a lot more that you can control in these joint practice environments if you're a head coach and if you're a coaching staff, as opposed to, in a game situation where literally anything can happen. You can kind of simulate the things you want to simulate. You can risk the things that you want to risk during a practice. In preseason, they're tackling, they're hitting. There's just a bunch of stuff you can't control. And so those joint practices give you an opportunity to be able to see your talent up against competition while still being in a controlled environment. So I think that's where you're going to see a lot of evaluation for some more of these starters. This is where a lot of roster spots are going to be decided over the course of the next couple of weeks in addition to those preseason games. And this could be big for a lot of players that are looking or jostling for position or vying for a roster spot. That this really is a big moment for a lot of these players to have these 2 joint practices. And I think the unique part about having the 2 joint practices is present and helps a ton. It's interesting that they're going to see the Houston Texans in joint practices in the preseason and in the regular season. I think you might see some fights by the time it's all over and said and done with. But it'll be good work for these players who thrive on competition. I mentioned A.T. Perry, for instance, being a guy you wanted to see get under the lights and see what happens when there's competition in front of him from another team and all that. And now you get to simulate that for the next 2 weeks for guys like him and others that operate the same way. It's going to be a fun couple of weeks for sure. I'll be heading out to Orange County for the Chargers practices, and of course the Texans practices are here in New Orleans.
Speaking of A.T. Perry, that was a dime that Jameis dropped.
Yeah.
What about that spot in the backup role to Carr?
Oh, yeah. I think we've heard a lot of conversation about, hey, Jake Haener's performing really well throughout training camp, and maybe that's going to make Jameis Winston expendable. I don't see that being the case. And it's actually, that has nothing to do with Jake Haener. Like, I think that Jake Haener can come out and have 2 fantastic, phenomenal preseason games. And Jameis Winston, if he's on your roster, is still your backup, right? Like, he's still the guy with the NFL experience, and you can't undervalue that at all. And not only is he a starter with NFL experience, he's a starter in your system, man. Like, he knows your offense. He's played it, he's executed, he's won with it. And so I think that those things kind of probably put him over the edge for me. I always think it's fun to have like the rookie quarterback's coming in and pushing. Like Dennis Allen's all about competition and everything, and so there's value there for sure, 100%. But I still think very much that quarterback 2 role belongs, and deservedly so, to Jameis Winston. And Jameis had some ups and downs yesterday, just like Jake Haener did. Jameis, I think, kind of went in reverse of Jake Haener. Jake got a little bit better throughout. Jameis struggled a little bit more throughout as, different offensive linemen came in and the offense was different around him and more pressure came. And we know that pressure is not really his game and things like that. Like, there's all those pieces to it for sure. But if you want to have a guy that's going to be your QB2, whether he plays or not, like even if he's just the guy on the sideline to help your starting quarterback out, if you can get a guy that's been in your system before and is looking at defenses the exact same way your starting quarterback is looking at defenses, that's invaluable.
Locked On Saints podcast. It is daily New Orleans Saints content. You've got to work it back into your schedule now with the season taking place and training camp starting to wrap up and cuts starting to be made. Ross Jackson does an incredible job of covering the New Orleans Saints every single day. It's easy to find him. He's on social media at Ross Jackson NOLA. Locked On Saints podcast is easy to get wherever you get podcasts from. I'm subscribed on Spotify, but you can find it anywhere. And they've got a YouTube channel that they go live on after the game, like Ross was live on Saturday on Sunday. It was great to see. You look sharp in the suit, bro.
Thank you, man.
Always. Good to see you as always, and we'll touch base soon. Safe travels.
Baby, I got you, man. Appreciate you. Take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Y'all be safe.
There he is, RJ, Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints podcast, one of our favorites, a go-to there if you're looking for daily Saints content. Remember, daily, we are brought to you by Go Roof, online at GEAUXroof.com. A beautiful roof every shingle time. You get 2-year free workmanship guarantee when you link up with our guys over at Go Roof. That is with all new roof installations. Phone number's easy, 225-927-8300, 225-927-8300. You can count on Go Roof for roof repair, roof maintenance, roof installation. They've been doing it for over 15 years. Get in touch with them, whether it's residential roofing, whether it's commercial roofing, whether you need your repaired roof on either of those, commercial or residential. Go Roof can help you out today. It is online at GEAUXroofing.com. GEAUXroof.com, GEAUXroof.com, and you can request a free quote right there online. Once you get to the online site, you can request a quote. Somebody will be right in touch with you. You'll have somebody up on your roof today giving you a number, and that will all be free. That consultation and number will be a free quote available, free and quick roof inspection. Like we said, they have great experience in all of it, residential, commercial, all of the repairs. If you're looking to sell a house, if you were looking to just need a new roof. I mean, there's been some storms and hail that's been through South Louisiana over the last couple of weeks and months, and you want somebody to jump up on the roof and tell you whether or not you need a new one, and you want an honest, trusted someone within the roofing industry that's been there, licensed and insured, get in touch with Go Roof, GEAUXroof.com, and you will get a beautiful roof every shingle time from our friends over at Go Roof. That's 225-927-8300, or you can request a quote online at GEAUXroof.com. We'll be back. We'll hear from Matt House. Matt House was speaking to the media for the first time on Saturday, said a lot. Really broke down his defense. We will hear from Coach House next here on the Jordy Culotta Show. As always, built by R&B Builders.
If you're in the market for a mortgage lender, you need to start with Doug Bickley and his team. Bickley has built a crew with over 50 years of combined lending experience. They've been in business for over 20 years, and they love helping their clients achieve the American dream of home ownership. They're also key with working in real estate agents and helping their clients getting same-day pre-approval. They average about one buyer a day getting them in a home. If you want to get in touch with Doug and his crew, it's easy. Call them 225-214-5154. 225-214-5154. Go see the Bickley team today. They're located on the corner of Coursey Boulevard and Sherwood Forest right here in Baton Rouge. Is it time to wash your house or business? Call the pros at Hydro Wash today. Get them out with their low-pressure, soft-washing cleaning approach. From commercial buildings, rooftops, and residentials, Hydro Wash is ready to get your place shining. Find them on Facebook or call Curtis at 225-933-7068. Take it from me, Hydro Wash came by and made my house look like new. What was best was the professionalism. They picked up everything, made the clean, and then put everything back to where it belonged. Get in touch with Curtis today. Call him at 225-933-7068 or find Hydro Wash on Facebook.
What's up?
What's happening?
Chilling with a couple of cool guys. You?
Chilling and watching some tube. Hold on.
Did you do it?
Hold on. Did you do it?
Roof's up.
Hold on.
Roof's up?
Roof's up!
Roof's up!
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Beautiful roof every single time.
True. True.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college, for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
Can't put the cart before the horse. That'd be like, will you marry me?
Do I know you?
Never sign a contract with a roofer before he gets on your roof. Call Go Roof instead. We offer a free, no obligation inspection. A beautiful roof every single time. Bobby, goes in the front.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
All right, welcome back here. Jordy Culotta Show is always built by R&B Builders, live here on this Monday. If you don't mind, hit that like button, share button, comment button. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. Stewie, all good in your world?
All good. All good over here.
Any drama, any news this weekend?
Not too much for me.
Good. As for the move here, we're about a week away, I would say, on going live at the new studio. I know Lloyd leaked the art on his social media, which it's always your own. It's always in-house. We have to worry about first. Lloyd just put it out there. I got more text messages on. I love the art, man. I'm like, well, how did people see this? I mean, I didn't. Nobody put it out. I mean, I've only shared it with a couple of people. So finally, I'm like, well, without sounding like kind of like incompetent to people, I was like, well, bro, where'd you see this? Lloyd's social media. I'm like, oh, perfect, great. Lloyd would have not made it long in the mafia. He would have been an early exit, like one of these guys. Like, yeah, we get it. You see the guy with the weird haircut in the back? Like, let's whack him.
Break his leg.
Let's get rid of this guy. Put him in the trunk. Drop him in the river, for God's sake.
Tell him to sit in the front seat.
Put some cement in his trash bag and then dump him in it, and let's get the hell out of here. I mean, some things you just don't have to say. Hey, let's not put this out, right? I mean, wouldn't you think so? At our relationship at this point, Stewie, I texted the group, you, Lloyd, and I, the picture of the art. Did you ever think twice about putting it on your social media? No. Not one time? No. Not one time you didn't think about it? Not one time?
No, did not.
Within an hour of sending it to you, Lloyd had it on his story. I mean, it's always your own. Speaking of their own, Matt House was speaking about his defense on Saturday morning and had a lot to say as House and the crew have had right around the midway point here of camp. So here was House. This is just number one, Stewie. This is him talking, just kind of opening up to the press conference following Saturday morning's workout.
We're 8 practices, I believe, into camp. We're growing, but by no means are we ready for competition yet. But we're in the process, and I think guys need to continue to embrace the process, all right, and grow every day and show our traits. With that, I'll take any questions.
More from House. Here he is speaking about one of the big transfers in the offseason, his linebacker, Omar Spates.
I've been pleased with Omar. You definitely see a level of maturity. I think the spring was big for him to fit into Coach Kelly's program and, our mission and how we go about doing things. And I think you're seeing him in training camp really embrace that. But you definitely see a veteran presence from him. Or, we're 8 practices, I believe.
Look, we said it last week. We did a little bit of a linebacker preview. Their linebackers on the front end are very talented, extremely, extremely talented group. You may have the best player in the country in that position group in Harold Perkins. It's just a very thin group, right? I mean, you need Spates, you need Perkins, you need Greg Penn, you need guys, even like the Weeks brothers, to step up here because you just don't have the numbers and you don't have the depth that you would like. You've got the high-end talent, though. If Spates and Perkins and all these guys can stay healthy, I mean, you're talking about some all-SEC, all-American caliber type players if they can make it through the season at that level with, catching a little bit of luck because they just don't have a lot of depth. All right, what the emphasis is for Matt House on this season, or at least what they're working on here in camp, at this point.
Moving forward. Both of them, we got to improve drastically. That's 2 areas that have been a point of emphasis. Get off the field. I believe we were in the 70s, which isn't good enough. Last year, if you look at the number one team in the takeaway defense, it was Illinois, and they had 2.4 takeaways a game. They allowed 12.7 points. So there's a direct correlation there. Both are being emphasized like crazy.
Defensive backs got a lot of competition, including the cornerback, and it seems like a couple of names pop out every week. Here's Matt House's view of the competition up to this point.
Make that decision.
Yeah, I think guys are still competing for roles at this point. You see good things out of them. What we're looking for is consistency. Day in and day out, exhibiting our traits. And really being the guy that you can count on every snap. We've had guys that have flashed. Deuce strung a couple practices together earlier this week. I got to get in and watch the film. Ashton Stamps is growing up fast. Zai has done some good things. We just got to continue to grow.
We've talked about it a little bit about the comfort level in year two, whether it's for Jaden Daniels, the starting quarterback, Brian Kelly, the head coach, Mike Denbrock, the offensive play caller. Here's the same question to Matt House on his comfort level heading into another season in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I think comfort's kind of a relative term. I don't think anybody ever wants to be comfortable, but what you do see is you understand the expectations, right? We're not all trying to learn Coach Kelly's program, and really we now know exactly what our traits are and what they look like, okay? Exactly what our process is and what it looks like. Now, there's an expectation for those that return that we take that to the next level.
You make that decision.
Yeah, I think guys are...
How good is Harold Perkins?
Yeah, I think right now you're at the process where you're teaching them to play multiple positions, right? And then when you get into a specific game, you see what fits the scheme to stop that team and what he does well. Really not just for Harold, but all our players. Where you're looking and trying to define roles, you're trying to find things that they can be successful at. What do they do well? What do they need work at? And what do you learn from them? And try to put them in those positions. And that's really what the summer's all about.
Ashton Stamps is a true freshman out of New Orleans that has made some waves here early on in fall camp. It seems like a true freshman is definitely going to be on the field. Here's defensive coordinator Matt House speaking about the Rummel product.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you this. Like, you want to talk about as a staff, I mean, the guy came to camp 3 times to LSU to get a scholarship offer. I think that's all you need to tell about Ashton Stamps. Like, he wants to be here, he wants to be great, and he's not scared of competition. And sometimes that's not always true right now, right? And he's a dude that embraces competition every day.
Another position, or at least more on the defensive back, and somebody else who is in the competition is Zai Alexander. Alexander transferred over from Southeastern and is seemingly someone who is at the top of the depth chart right now. Here's the defensive coordinator, Matt House, speaking on Alexander and his capabilities.
You the most.
I think his length and how smart he is. Like, he is a smart player. And, that's a trait we value. You can tell he's a high school quarterback. And his length. His length helps him on the edge.
Andre Sam is another transfer that seemingly is going to have a chance to play in the defensive backfield. Sam is a safety that played at McNeese, and he also played at Marshall. He played for Frank Wilson over at McNeese, and Wilson was very instrumental in getting Sam back on into South Louisiana. Here is Matt House talking about how the 27-year-old can help out this defense.
Yeah, really, really pleased to have Andre. Love his energy, love his veteran presence. I love his buy-in. He's a guy that has embraced everything we do here. It's been great to have him, and I think he's going to be an integral part of what we do.
Scheme everything.
7 years or 27?
He said, yeah, he's been here for 7 years. He's been in college for 7 years. So I don't know if he's 27.
No, that's wrong.
He might be like 24 or 25.
I screwed that up. He's not 27. He's 7 years.
Yeah, he's probably 24, 25, 24.
7 years.
Yeah.
Be 18 when you go into college?
Yeah.
About 24, 25.
Yeah.
For sure. That's very positive. You've got one that age in the locker room, for sure. All right, Stewie, this is 17. This is Matt House speaking about Deshaun Womack, who is another true freshman who's going to have an opportunity to play on the defense.
He's a guy that we're going to be able to move around some.
Real quick answer.
They love Deshaun Womack. 21 here, Stewie. This is Deuce Chestnut, and what type of camp Chestnut has had.
Yeah, I think Deuce is a headsy player. And what I have seen is he's got a unique skill set for baiting guys.
10.
That's the thing. You can tell Deuce has played football.
Here's Matt House talking about Major Burns. Burns brings some versatility to this defense in which they're using him on different levels.
Yeah, Major's improved, and he's a guy that his length and his speed give the options to do different things, and he's also a guy now where it's time to take his development to the next level, where it's beyond just what's my job, but it's seeing the bigger picture. And understanding what offenses are trying to do, understanding how situational football plays a role, and then how you can take advantage of it.
That was some from Matt House. Here's Matt House on 20. This is 20, talking about Greg Penn and the development of Penn at linebacker going into another year for Greg.
Progress.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Greg, you can tell he's much more comfortable at what we do. He's done a good job with his weight. Jake Flint, Dr. Frakes, they've done a great job with him. He's leaner, he's moving better, and I think he's trusting himself more to pull the trigger.
So that's Matt House, LSU defensive coordinator, speaking on some of the things that has jumped out here. Tigers back on the practice field this morning at 9:45. Stewie will be out there representing us and the crew. It was good to get out there on Saturday and really see things up close and some of the competition battles and some of the guys that are new faces and some newcomers that are going to be expected to play here early on. Speaking of high praise and responsibility for a first-year player or somebody that's going to be a standout here early on in his career, did you see this second-year Dallas Cowboy, Damon Clark, being from the defensive standpoint? He played his first preseason game versus Jacksonville on Saturday, and the Cowboys fell 28-23. But Damon Clark wearing the green dot for the defensive responsibilities for the Cowboys. If you know what that means that he's the one that's handling the communication with the defense. And obviously this is something that Damon Clark is very relaxed in doing. In fact, he told DallasCowboys.com after the game, "It brought me back to my LSU days. Everybody's looking at you for the call. I was confident. I got to take a look at the film, correct some things, but that's part of football." He went on to say, "I'm used to doing that stuff. For me, it was nothing new. It was just me going out there and playing within the scheme, not just going out there and doing my own stuff, trusting the call, flying to the ball. That's something I know and have put on tape all the time, running to the ball." So Damon Clark, obviously somebody who we will always pull for, somebody who's always been great to the city. He's from Baton Rouge, went to Southern Lab, was a standout at Southern Lab, and then went on to become the captain at LSU, and was really somebody that played a huge role in LSU, both on a national championship team and then a time where the program was really trying to find and trying to find their way out of the weeds and find an identity. Damon Clark was somebody who was very positive for LSU, and now getting his chance with the Dallas Cowboys and being trusted with a huge responsibility just from a communication standpoint defensively inside of the game and inside of the scheme, and trusted by the coaches. Clark here very early on, you're seeing already getting that praise and that trust from the staff over there in Dallas. So congratulations to the Baton Rouge native and former LSU standout in Clark. Not surprising, really. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's just not when you think about just the type of human being that he is. This seems like something that makes a lot of sense for him. So congratulations to Damon, and hopefully he will he'll have a roster spot on Dallas, but that looks like that's going to go a long way. One thing that I did want to point out that I did take away from practice on Saturday that I may not have mentioned early on, I know we talked a lot about it, but was Sage Ryan, to me, is somebody I am looking at. I know that I've been talking about Savion Jones for a long time, and it feels like we've been talking about Sage Ryan for longer. But when you look at the versatility of Sage here in camp, I think and wouldn't be surprised if Sage Ryan took some first-team reps at cornerback. And people might think that's crazy. People might think that that's a wild notion, but I think that that's not outside of realm of possibility to look at the potential of getting the best 5 players on the field from a defensive back standpoint where Sage Ryan might fit in. I think that there's one thing that is debatable within the top 5 defensive backs on the team is just not if Sage Ryan is within that group. It's just where does he fit in within that group? And it may be at cornerback. And there's going to be packages where he's going to be playing on the outside. And it's because of his athleticism. It's because of his versatility. It's what we've talked about, really since day one from him. I mean, when he came out of Lafayette Christian, he did everything for that program. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. When you have a player like that, you got to take full advantage of it. And Trev Falk and the crew did. I mean, he played offense. He played defense. He was a specialist. He was, he drove the bus and made the hot dogs. He did everything. And sometimes players like that, when you put them into you put them into a high-end program somewhere like LSU, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, some of these programs that are year in, year out, pumping out players, it's tough to find a specific spot for somebody like that that's come in. Jacoby Stevens was a lot like that. Stevens early on in his career, you played him at wideout, you played him at corner, you played him at safety, you put him at linebacker. You put him everywhere before you just said, like, finally you got to get him on the field. Like, whatever it is, find a spot for him and get him out there. Sage Ryan is at that point in his career where it's like, okay, look, man, he's made the transition from high school to college. Was it a little longer than people maybe expected or even wanted? Yeah, for sure. Probably him more than anybody. But now it seems like it's here. Now it seems like the game is slowed down to him when you go out there and watch him play. That would be the best description I could get just to give a listener to say, well, how far along is he? It just looks like he sees everything. It looks like he's playing at a pace and at a speed where he's not freaking out, and he looks very comfortable. And for an athlete, that's usually where you start to make plays. I mean, if you can see it like that, where it's, it's just all kind of happening for you and you're just kind of reacting, well, you're in a good spot. And that's where Sage feels like he is now finally. And, like I said, has the transition been as timely as everybody wanted? Probably not. More than him. More him than anybody else. But now, where it seemingly has slowed down for him, there's no doubt he's one of the top 5 defensive backs on this team. Where does he fit in? As versatile, as athletic, as, physically right he is, where is it? I wouldn't be surprised if it's corner. Just watch out. I'm telling you. It may not be permanent. It may not be where you have him for the entire time, but I think that there will be looks and there will be packages that have him on the edge. So, after seeing practice and talking to people on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
They know they got to play him.
Yeah, and I think people in the chat are kind of getting confused with thinking that you're saying Sage Ryan is going to play corner like exclusively. He is not playing corner exclusively. He is most likely going to be the starting nickel. But what we're saying is that Sage Ryan, there will be some looks where you will see Sage Ryan at outside corner. You might be confused, but he is one of the better players on the defense, so he has to play.
Just watching him on Saturday and talking to people that were there around the program and connected to the program, I mean, it feels like they know they have to play him at DB. I mean, obviously that's a very obvious statement that he's one of their guys that they have to play just because he makes them their best. Where does he fit in? In some packages, he may fit in better as a corner, and I think that you could see him in some situations play outside. And it wouldn't surprise me if that was early until they had some things figured out, right? I mean, the Denver Harris thing, he needs to catch up, right? I mean, I know that we've talked about this a lot over the last couple of weeks, but, you know, I mean, it's for Harris to grab, right? I mean, nobody wants Denver Harris to step up and play more than LSU does. They need that rather than, you know, going through – you know, working guys out there that may not be comfortable or, you know, using guys that are in first-time situations or, you know, using scenarios that, you know, have not a lot of experience behind it. But, you know, I mean, until he really kind of shows he can get it, you know, they're going to have to try and find the guys that can play and fit that role. We'll see. We'll see. All right, good stuff today. Appreciate everybody being here. Make sure to hit that like button, that share button, that comment button. If you have not subscribed, please hit the subscription button before we get out of here. Remember, our friends over at Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute can help you out whether you're a pediatric patient or a high school athlete. It doesn't matter if you're a member of the Saints or Pelicans. If you're just a weekend warrior or even a senior citizen, all of us turn to Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute for care. They've been serving Louisiana, Mississippi, and beyond, and they're ready to help you get past whatever sports injury you face. Online, it is at ochsner.org/sports-medicine, ochsner.org/sports-medicine, to get in touch with our friends over at Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute. And remember, high school football is cranking up, and Ochsner is reminding you every Saturday morning beginning August 26th, they will have their injury clinic opened over at the Grove location, located just off of Bluebonnet, and that'll be August 26th through November 4th, 8 o'clock in the morning until 10:30, and that will be serving all of your injuries. So if you're injured, you can just walk in. That's over at the Grove over there at Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute, and we'll be giving you a phone number throughout the year that is a 24-hour hotline that if you have any injuries in and around high school competition, Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute will see you. So you can all check this out online at ochsner.org/sportsmedicine if you're looking for it. Good stuff today. Appreciate Ross Jackson for stopping by. Saints looked really good yesterday to start the preseason, but you always want to keep in mind that it is preseason. I saw where the Baltimore Ravens are like celebrating.
Yeah,
like 24 straight.
20. I think it might be like 27.
Yeah, 27 straight preseason wins, which, I mean, I get, but
it's cool.
What do you get?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got
just a social media post
and a decent roster. You can say you got a deep roster. That's
right.
it.
So hit that like button, share button, comment button, subscribe if you have not subscribed. We appreciate you being here to start your Monday. We'll be back tomorrow. We will have Jimmy Burrow on. We will be talking to the coach, obviously, about the Golden Boy and where Joey is heading in after an injury. Started to move around this weekend.
I saw some reports that he might play week 1.
Oh, he's no doubt he's playing week 1. He's playing week 1. Which week 1? Over a month away, September 10th? Mm-hmm. He's playing. We will talk to Coach Burrow tomorrow. There's a benefit coming up for Burrow's Foundation that we'll be getting you some information on tomorrow as well. So make sure and follow us on social media at Culotta Show. We'll be back with you 7 a.m. tomorrow. And as always, we're built by RMB Builders.
Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time. It's the hottest show around, we ain't gotta flex. Call up G, we get it done, we earning our respect. Tell recruits to let us in, where they